relax a bit, though. Still breezy as we go through this evening. The wind gets even more calm as we get into the overnight hours. Under a clear sky, we'll get cold, dropping back into the mid-30s. The outlying spots in the farms may see the freezing mark by early in the morning. For our Wednesday, Valentine's Day, it's a sweet forecast. Sunshine in upper 50s. We'll be into the 60s as we head into Thursday and Friday and staying dry through the rest of the work week. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Tilly Harley-Davidson is simply the best, and their service department is second to none. Right now, 1K, 5K, and 10K M8 service is only $351.25 plus tax, including SIN 3 and heavy gear oil. Stop by to schedule your next service or online at TillyHD.com. Be road ready with Tilly of Statesville.
Welcome. It is Tuesday. You are listening to the Scoreboard. All things sports, local, regional, national. We got high school, we got college, we got professional sports. We have NASCAR coming up. Maybe a little bit of a preview, as every day pretty much until Sunday, we will have some sort of NASCAR news breaking. Every day. It should be a fun one as we gear up and get ready for Daytona on Sunday. 844 Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. It's the phone number if you want to call in, be a part of the program today. Lots of things in the news. Obviously, we're going to have our high school sports update. Basketball season, last week of the regular season. 2 games remaining for pretty much every team in the area and a lot of people in action tonight, so we'll have that for you. First segment, as we always do, but also a little bit later on, we do have one more Super Bowl story that we want to inform you about. We also have NASCAR, as I said. We have a little bit of news on how the lineup is going to be set for the Daytona 500 and some NHL, maybe some NBA, and definitely we're going to get into the NCAA men's basketball scene because last night had a little bit of an upset with one of the top 10 schools in the country. 844 Studio 4, that is the phone number. Get you right here onto the Scoreboard to talk about anything you would like. I got it all for you right here. Let's get started, though, with that high school basketball scene. A lot of schools that are going to be making the playoffs in the area. A couple that have had some rough years. I'm looking at you, directional Iredell schools. Tough year. But other schools making push towards the playoffs. So we'll start out same way we always do with Mooresville High School. They are in action tonight, taking on one of their rivals, A.L. Brown, in conference. That is going to be a home game for Mooresville. Tip-off at 7:30, and right now Mooresville sitting pretty in the conference and in the regular season overall record, 14-8 right now with a 6-4 conference record. They should make the playoffs. They're probably not going to be a good seed. More than likely, I'd say they're going to be in the bottom third of seeding. But Mooresville should be making a push here, especially if they can win their final 2 games of the year. Now, that last one is going to be hard because they do have to take on Lake Norman, who sits right now undefeated in the 4A Greater Metro Conference, 21-1 overall. They're also in action tonight. The basketball team will be taking on South Iredell High School. They'll be on the road traveling to South Iredell. Tip-off in that one, 7:30. And this one, honestly, for Lake Norman, it should be a little bit of a layup. No pun intended there. But South Iredell has not had a good year, and they have not been able to turn anything around. So you would expect for Lake Norman to come in there, handle business, and be ready for the regular season finale against Mooresville. But Lake Norman, right now, the best team in the immediate listening area. Statesville High School has been on a run ever since we had Coach Nesbitt in here, along with one of their star players. 4-0 since that interview, just so you know. So if anybody needs a little bit of luck, come join the scoreboard. We'll get your team going in the right direction. 11-10 right now. They've gotten back above 500. 8-4 in conference, though, which is very impressive. And like I said, a nice 4-game win streak. The final 2 games of the year are not going to be cakewalks at all. Although they will be at home, that final game of the year against Hickory could prove to be a big one, as right now, Hickory High School has dominated every team that they've seen. 22-0 on the year, 12-0 conference record. So we look forward to the rest of the week, but before we get there, Statesville has to handle business against St. Stephen's, who sits behind them in the conference at 5-7, 11-11 overall. So a relatively even matchup here. Hopefully Statesville can pull that one off and continue their upward trend towards the playoffs. North Iredell High School was fighting for quite some time to be a part of these playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang on. 9-13 on the year is definitely not where they want to be, especially now that they're sitting 6th place in their conference at 5-7. They need to win out, and it's not going to be easy. East Lincoln is going to be first up for North Iredell, 7:30 on the road. East Lincoln has had a interesting year, but recently they've gotten hot. They sit at 7-5 in the conference, so it's going to be a tough game for North Iredell, but if they can pull that one off, they take on West Iredell to finish their season. And West Iredell has not had a good year. Honestly, it's one that they probably want to forget. 2-19 right now, 0-12 in the conference, a brutal 11-game losing streak. They're just honestly trying to get through the year, maybe one more win before they sail off into the sunset. Trying to get it tonight on the road against North Lincoln, and it doesn't get easier after that. They stay on the road to go play North Iredell to finish their season. And last but not least, as we always say, South Iredell Vikings. Their win percentage is under 10%. 2-20 on the year, 0-10 in the 4A Greater Metro Conference. They have just not had a year that they want to talk about particularly much. They're in action, though. Tonight they take on Lake Norman, as we talked about, and to end their season, they will go on the road and look to end the season on a positive against Cox Mill High School. Now, it might be a little bit more winnable game than the one tonight, as Cox Mill sits at 500, both in the conference and overall. But for South Iredell, just like I said, looking to get through the rest of the year. Hopefully things look a little bit better next year, because 2-20 is just not where you want to be. And no matter what the situation is, only winning 2 games is not going to cut it ever. So South Iredell, maybe they finished their season on a high note, but that's yet to be seen. We got a lot more coming up for you here today. When we return, we're going to hit one news story in the NFL related to the Super Bowl, not specifically about the Super Bowl, but we're going to talk about that, and then we will get into some Daytona talk, because NASCAR season is here, and you already know you'll be able to catch those races right here on WSIC. So don't go anywhere. We got a good show for you lined up. Stay tuned on the scoreboard. We're back right after this.
sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a windy day of weather. That's been the big headline. The wind's starting to relax a bit, though. Still breezy. As we go through this evening, the wind gets even more calm as we get into the overnight hours. Under a clear sky, we'll get cold, dropping back into the mid-30s. The outlying spots in the farms may see the freezing mark by early in the morning. For our Wednesday, Valentine's Day, it's a sweet forecast. Sunshine in upper 50s. We'll be into the 60s as we head into Thursday and Friday and staying dry through the rest of the work week. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Merlefest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at merlefest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Enjoy barbecue, beers, and bikes? Come by Max Speed Shop every Thursday and Saturday now through April 13th for live music and great food. MaxSpeedShop.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each show gives you your chance to win. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Looking to play some trivia with your four-legged friends Monday nights? Lucky Dog Bark and Brew has you covered. Trivia night, Mondays from 7 to 9. LuckyDogBarkandBrew.com. After selling out 2 performances last year at Kane Center for the Arts, Forever Young is back. Follow the unforgettable group of friends as they discover the greatest hits of all time. Forever Young, Kane Center for the Arts, Friday, February 16th, kanearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Make your work easier with Eagle Rentals of Troutman and Statesville. Eagle Rentals has generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor care equipment, pressure washers, lighting equipment, and lawn care equipment. Plus, Eagle Rentals has construction equipment like forklifts, bobcat loaders, backhoes, excavators, and more. Reserve online at EagleRentals.com. That's EagleRentals.com.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, segment 2 here on the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4, that's 844-788-3464. Call me up. Get you right in to the studios here. You can be part of the program. You can also stream our video. Yeah, that's right. We are on video worldwide. Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, WSICnews.com. Wherever you want us, you will find us. We are lurking around every corner. I told you I would have a news story for you regarding the Super Bowl on the other side of that last break. And here it is. Super Bowl 58 set TV rating record. A record with 123.7 million viewers. It is the most watched program in television history. That according to Nielsen and Adobe Analytics. Whew. 123.7 million people. Most watched program on television ever. Not most watched Super Bowl, not the most watched football game, even though it is all of those things. It is the most watched thing to ever happen on television. That's insane to me. And I will say that the AP put this article out, and they do say that some of the increase can be attributed to a change in the way that the viewers are counted, which began including out-of-home viewers in its ratings in 2020, and in all 50 states it started this year. Basically, that means if you're watching it on your phone on a streaming app, you are now getting counted towards the ratings. And that's probably one of the things that made this the highest watched program on TV ever, but also the NFL's newfound fan base with Taylor Swift fans all of a sudden becoming big fans of the NFL. So that is the only update we have for you regarding the Super Bowl. The game's over. There's no other controversy. Look, I'll touch on this one time before we move on. That game was probably the best officiated game of the season. Were there some question marks? Yeah, but there's always question marks when it comes to officiating. Namely, some of these intentional grounding calls. I mean, Mahomes got called for one where his tight end was 2 yards away, and then he threw one over the middle of the field to nobody, and there was no intentional grounding. So there were a few things, obviously, that were either missed or not consistent, but when you take the game as a whole, the officiating gets a W, in my opinion. I have no complaints on that. That's it. We're done talking about the Super Bowl. Clean Super Bowl. Chiefs are dynasty. Deal with it. 844-STUDIO-4, 844-788-3464 is the phone number. We do have a caller on the line. Go ahead and bring them into the studio here. Caller, you are on the scoreboard. What do you got for me today?
Good evening, Joe. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, Yeah, I was sad to see the 49ers CMC had such a good game, but they couldn't quite get it done. Had a bunch of just stupid stuff happen to them and couldn't quite get there, even though the Chiefs fumbled like 4 or 5 times. Somehow they managed to pull it out. So,
yeah.
But
yeah, there were
kudos to them.
There were definitely some opportunities there for McCaffrey, and it's almost like in the second half, Kyle Shanahan forgot he was his running back. Anyway, what do you got for me today?
Yeah, no, you know me. I love to talk about the Tar Heels. Got another big game tonight on the road at the old Carrier Dome. I don't know what they call it now. It used to be the old Carrier Dome, but see if the Heels can get another road victory. They're have only lost one game on the road this year in the ACC, and had a little stumble a couple times along the way. But hey, you know it's going to happen. Still at the top of the conference, a game ahead of everybody. Virginia and Duke's right on their heels. And wanted to get your take. What do you think? They're saying maybe like 4 teams or so. I'm thinking maybe if Wake can show up and play good too, we might have 5 teams from the ACC in there. They always say how pitiful the ACC is, but the last 2 years they have the best record in the March Madness of any other conference. So I think the record kind of speaks for itself, and they don't even get nearly as many teams in and still get in there and dominate, make Final Four runs and all this kind of good stuff. So they want to trash the ACC, but to me they're still the best overall conference in there. They get results when it counts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's interesting when you talk about that because we could see 5 teams in the ACC in the tournament, but according to this article that I was looking at, the ACC hasn't had a number 1 seed since seeding began in 1979 for the tournament, which I find to be incredible that there has not been a number 1 overall seed in March Madness for the ACC. But I do think we're going to see 5 teams this year because the ACC the tournament's going to be great, but number 1, the records that we're seeing and the wins that we're seeing against certain teams. Obviously, we talk about strength of schedule in football a lot. It's not really talked about much in basketball, but that's all going to be an impact here. And I do think at the end of the day, we're going to see 5 teams from the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that doesn't think, Clemson, Carolina, Duke, and Virginia should be in there, they're crazy. I mean, they always perform, and I think they're definitely locked in. I think maybe Wake can possibly get in there if they can hold tight and finish strong in their season. So, but I guess we'll just wait and see. That's fun to talk about it, but then just have to see what the results are at the end of the day. But hopefully Tar Heels get a big win tonight. They're coming on 7 o'clock tonight, and just hopefully they can show up and do good things.
Well,
looks like Cadeau's starting to come along. Had his best game of the season. Had like 18, 19 points the other night, and he's starting to find a little bit of a shot. So that'll be helpful for him if he can knock down some open threes, get a couple of those a game. That'll be a big plus. Because he hasn't really been a scorer yet so far. I mean, he's the only really should be a senior in high school right now, and so he's kind of starting to come on. Usually it takes him a little time that freshman year, playing in the big time ACC, and a little different than elite high school level. So
yeah, and I'll tell you what, when I look at the game tonight, I do expect North Carolina to come out victorious. Just so you know, the Syracuse, the JMA Wireless Dome. I don't know what JMA Wireless is. Maybe it's something that's in the Syracuse area that they would know about. But that is the new name. It's kind of like it's kind of like when you think about other teams like out in LA. It's still the Staples Center. It's not the Crypto.com arena. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, it's just, whoever's paying the big bucks, and that's what they get the name on there. But.
Exactly. Well, I expect a good game here tonight, but I do think North Carolina's got this one. They absolutely should come out on top, favored by 7.5 as of right now. But thank you so much for calling in. Always appreciate hearing from you and talking North Carolina basketball.
All right, Joe. Go Tar Heels, buddy. You have a good night.
You too. Have a good night and go Tar Heels. And if you want to call and talk about basketball or baseball, which is coming up soon, I don't know why you would want to talk about that. Maybe you want to talk about some NASCAR. You could call me up, 844-788-3464. That's 844-STUDIO-4. We're going to talk about some NASCAR real quick before we get to our next break, and then we'll continue the conversation. But we have an update on the qualifying order. Now, I told you that every day from here till Sunday, we're going to be having something happen at Daytona. Today, it was the drawing to see who is qualifying first, second, third, all the way to 42nd, as there's 42 entries in the field, it looks like. Right now, we're going to go over that. Your number one qualifier, who is going out first? Carson Hocevar, the rookie in the 77 car, will go out first to qualify. Now, I don't know if it matters at Daytona, to be honest with you. If going out first versus going out last is a big difference. I'm sure that, there's thousandths of a second that are different, which is big, especially when we're talking qualifying at Daytona. But I don't know, because last we have the 23 car, Bubba Wallace, and before that, actually, Daniel Suarez is next to last. So a couple of interesting drivers there going last and next to last. But last year's race was interesting with the qualifying. We had, I think it was Kyle Larson on pole, if I'm not mistaken about that. I might be off by a year. But here's a little bit of an update for you on what's going to happen with Daytona. We're going to have the qualifying session tomorrow, which sets the front row, as it always has. And then we're going to have the duels on Thursday, same as always, inside and outside. Trucks on Friday, Xfinity and ARCA on Saturday. Sunday is the 500. So let's talk a little bit more about this and maybe hear from some of the drivers on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We're back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a windy day of weather. That's been the big headline. The wind's starting to relax a bit, though. Still breezy as we go through this evening. The wind gets even more calm as we get into the overnight hours. Under a clear sky, we'll get cold, dropping back into the mid-30s. The outlying spots in the farms may see the freezing mark by early in the morning. For our Wednesday, Valentine's Day, it's a sweet forecast. Sunshine in upper 50s. We'll be into the 60s as we head into Thursday and Friday and staying dry through the rest of the work week. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
In life, we plan for many important things. Weddings, our children's education, retirement. A celebration of life is really no different. Planning and paying for your life celebration in advance will give you and your family valuable peace of mind. We'll help you take care of every detail with professionalism and compassion. We're Bunch Johnson Funeral Home. Find us at dignitymemorial.com.
Little Shavers Wood Shop and Building Supply is your one-stop source for winter electric and torpedo heaters, heat lamps, pine and cedar shavings, ice melt, and snow sleds. Plus, year-round items including PPG paints and stains, tools for plumbing and heating, and automotive supplies. Over 55,000 warehouse products available. You'll find Little Shavers on Facebook and online at littleshavers.com. That's LILshavers.com.
Are you 60 plus and love to travel? Introducing the Senior Travel Discount Network, brought to you by Low Cost Airlines. Call us anytime, day or night, and save up to 75% on your airline and hotel reservations. We can help you save a ton of money to fly almost anywhere. We have inside discounts on over 500 airlines and 500,000 hotels worldwide. And when you call and mention the discount code 60 plus, we'll give you an extra free night with your qualified air and hotel reservation. Now you can get the best prices on air and hotel reservations with your phone. We make it easy and fast for you to save money and book a trip. Remember, call the Senior Travel Discount Network, mention the discount code 60 plus for your free hotel night with your qualified reservation. Call now.
210-503-7591. 210-503-7.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
Call 800-239-8296. 800-239-8296. 800-239.
Across America.
Espionage charges are absolutely ridiculous.
And closer to home.
Our border's under siege. Inflation's at a near 40-year high. Gas prices are through the roof. Crime is skyrocketing in our major cities. Our national debt is piling up like a mountain range.
What matters to you?
We do not need to have our commander-in-chief not protecting our nation's secrets.
This is WSIC. News Talk Now.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wall Street got a reality check today with hotter than estimated inflation data triggering a big slide in both stocks and bonds. The Dow fell 525 points, the Nasdaq lost 287, the S&P lost 69. Well, when it comes to the prices we pay when we shop, the numbers may be trending in the right direction, but retail inflation gains remain hotter than expected. The Consumer Price Index rose in January, 0.3% from December, a tick above the consensus forecast. On an annual basis, inflation was running at a 3.1% rate, down from 3.4%, but still above estimates. Take out food and energy costs, and the so-called core CPE was up 3.9%. Meanwhile, Boeing is seeing its worst month of new airplane orders after the Alaska airline door plug blowout incident. The company said today it booked orders for only 3 737 MAX planes to an unidentified customer, but had 3 other orders canceled, adding up to a net zero of orders for the period. That's Boeing's worst month since the pandemic. Erica Herskowitz, Bloomberg Radio.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Second half of the show here on the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4, that is the phone number if you have something you want to talk about today. Talking a little bit of NASCAR as we have the Daytona 500 coming up on Sunday. But there's a lot of things going on in between there. A little later on, we'll hear from a couple of the drivers on their Daytona preview. But before we get to that, a little bit of a correction, as I was just corrected here on one of our video streams. It was actually Alex Bowman who was on the pole last year, and then the year before that it was Larson, and then the year before that it was Bowman. So the last 3 years have been Hendrick cars on the pole. Now there was also a question posed: who has the most front row starts in Daytona 500 history? I don't know. I was looking it up and I couldn't really find anything. Obviously, I was able to find the drivers that have been on the pole the most, which were Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough, and Bill Elliott, each of them winning the pole for Daytona 4 times. But I don't know about front row. That's something that we'd have to get our research team a little bit more into. Do we have a research team over here? I have to talk to somebody about that. Anyway, 844 Studio 4 gets you right in here to the studio. Coming up tomorrow is qualifying for Daytona. So here is how it's going to work. Today's random draw set the order for where they roll off. Qualifying begins Wednesday at 8:15 Eastern time. So a little bit after the Scoreboard here tomorrow. Each driver will run one timed lap. So here's the deal. It's going to matter dramatically how well you do getting off pit road down into 1 and 2, down the backstretch. Like, you're only going to get one timed lap. I don't even know if they're technically going to be at full speed when they take the green flag. So that's just an interesting little wrinkle that we have in the 500 this year. You better get off pit road good and start getting that momentum up as soon as you physically can. So each driver runs one timed lap. Then the 10 fastest drivers from round 1, as it's being called, will go to a second round to fight for the Busch Light pole. Then the top 2 qualifiers will lock themselves onto the front row for Sunday's Daytona 500. Meaning if they wreck in the Daytona duels on Thursday, it doesn't really matter. Now, the duels, I love the duels. One of my favorite things about Speed Week, as we've now dubbed it Speed Week, it's going to set the order for everybody else. So, Duel 1 will be lining up odd positionings, so inside line. Duel number 2 will line up the even cars, or the outside line. And, if you win your duel, you start on the second row, not the first row, not the front row, row number 2. But still, a little bit of an incentive to do well in your duel. And if you are one of those pole sitters or front row drivers from Wednesday's single car qualifying, there is still an incentive for you to race and not hang in the back all day during the duel, because there will be points awarded during the duels. I think this started last year, if I'm not mistaken. I might be off on that again by a year. The top 10 in each Blue Green Vacations duel will be rewarded points that count towards the regular season. However, no playoff points will be awarded to the winners of each duel races. So the winner will get 10 regular season points, second place gets 9, and so on, all the way down to 10th, who gets that 1 point. But who knows? We've seen it come down to a point before. maybe not to get into the postseason, but we've seen a round come down to 1 point. We've seen the championship come down to 0 points before, back when we had the original chase format with Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart. But that's a little bit of what to expect going through the week here. We do have a little bit of audio here where we can hear from some of the drivers. I want to start things out with Chris Buescher, and here's what he has to say about being considered one of the favorites to win the Daytona 500.
I love our opportunity and our chances when we go super speedway racing. RFK puts very fast Ford Mustangs on track. Brad is a very good speedway racer. Obviously the Daytona win 1-2 last year was big for us, and really was Brad's doing, right? That's what we're trying to do, right? When we go super speedway racing, how do we find each other? We didn't do a good job the first year and realized that it bit us, and we worked very hard to work together last season, and we were very competitive all those super speedway races. So I feel like it's a reasonable number. I feel like that's accurate, that we will have a shot to win that thing.
That is Chris Buescher. He won a lot of races at the end of last year. If you remember, before he went on that run at the end of last year, a couple of years ago, he was flying through the infield at Charlotte after the rear end broke off and dug into the turf there and sent him on a wild ride, couple barrel rolls actually down the front stretch at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Not something you expect to see at a track like that. Also, let's go ahead and hear from Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is the winner from last year's Daytona 500. Here's what he has to say about the victory lane in Daytona.
I mean, it's a victory lane like none other. The kind of chaos commotion that kind of came with that victory lane. I can't wait to win it again, so that I think everything would be a little bit slower and be able to enjoy it a little bit. It was so chaotic that I kind of don't remember parts, I feel like.
I just chuckle a little bit because the image in my mind of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. being a 2-time Daytona 500 winner, it's too much for me. Cut the cameras. It's too much. I can't. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Hey, at least he's confident, He said he can't wait to win it again, not I hope I win it again. So there you go. There's a little bit of a preview there for Daytona. We're going to continue talking about it through the rest of the week. The last thing I'll leave you with NASCAR today is there are non-chartered teams trying to get into the Daytona 500. Problem is there's too many of them, so one team will not make the Daytona 500. Here are the drivers that are fighting for that unchartered spot. Of these drivers, one of them will have to go home. David Reagan, Kaz Grala, BJ McLeod, Anthony Alfredo, and 7-time series champion Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy will have to race his way into the Daytona 500. We talked a little bit about men's college basketball with that North Carolina preview, talking about their game coming up against Syracuse on the road. But yesterday, we had a big upset and a game that wasn't even all that close, if I'm being completely honest with you. Bill Self got thrown out of a game, head coach for Kansas, as his team kind of got beat down last night. The 6-seed Kansas losing to Texas Tech 79-50. Whew, that is a big loss. The other ranked team that was in action last night were the Duke Blue Devils, taking on an ACC rival in Wake Forest. The 9-seed Duke Blue Devils were able to come out victorious in that one. One more segment on the scoreboard here. And actually, oh boy, I'm getting corrected again. There will be 2 cars that will go home. The 44 car was a late entry. We don't even know who's driving the 44 car yet. Breaking news, host of the Scoreboard, Joe Berg, slotted to drive the 44 car in the Daytona 500. We'll have more for you after this. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a windy day of weather. That's been the big headline. The wind's starting to relax a bit, though. Still breezy. As we go through this evening, the wind gets even more calm as we get into the overnight hours. Under a clear sky, we'll get cold, dropping back into the mid-30s. The outlying spots in the farms may see the freezing mark by early in the morning. For our Wednesday, Valentine's Day, it's a sweet forecast. Sunshine in upper 50s. We'll be into the 60s as we head into Thursday and Friday and staying dry through the rest of the work week. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Merlefest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at merlefest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Enjoy barbecue, beers, and bikes? Come by Max Speed Shop every Thursday and Saturday now through April 13th for live music and great food. MaxSpeedShop.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each show gives you your chance to win. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Looking to play some trivia with your four-legged friends Monday nights? Lucky Dog Bark and Brew has you covered. Trivia night, Mondays from 7 to 9. LuckyDogBarkandBrew.com. After selling out 2 performances last year at Kane Center for the Arts, Forever Young is back. Follow the unforgettable group of friends as they discover the greatest hits of all time. Forever Young, Kane Center for the Arts, Friday, February 16th, kanearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Happening now at Randy Marion Ford Chevrolet in Statesville.
How about a new car, truck, or SUV? What a better way to start 2024 than at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville. Randy Marion Ford Lincoln taking advantage of a special purchase of 2023 Mazda CX-30s. These are the carbon editions starting at $24,770. You pick the color. Here today, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln. We have got the king of price deal. Like always, 2024, come see them today.
Now more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right. Final segment here on the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 gets you right here into the studio. Final segment of the day. And I'm giving away some tickets. That's right. I have a 4-pack to the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show a little bit later in February. February 23rd to the 25th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. If you're interested in these tickets, call me up. 844 Studio 4. First caller to call in and tell me who their pick for Daytona is will win these tickets. So call me up. You got about 10 minutes to win these tickets. 844-788-3464. Got an update here out of the NHL. There was an interesting play in the NHL on Saturday night. I don't know if anybody really has been paying attention to that, but let me go ahead and let you know what's going on. So the Leafs were playing the Senators, a couple of Canadian teams there. And you would think they'd be a little nicer to each other being Canadian, but they weren't. The Senators winning late. Toronto pulls their goaltender and in an attempt to tie the game. Puck goes past center. Ridley Grigg picks it up, and instead of scoring it into the empty net, he took a slap shot as hard as he possibly could and buried it into the back of the net. Well, Maple Leafs defenseman Morgan Rielly took exception to that. Immediately after the puck went into the net, he went over to Grigg and cross-checked him right in the head. Scrum ensued. The defenseman Morgan Rielly was then given a meeting with the NHL Player Safety Department, and just now it was announced that Morgan Rielly will be facing a 5-game suspension as a result of his cross-check against Grigg on Saturday. That was an ugly play. Both ways, honestly. Why are you taking a slap shot as hard as you can from right outside the paint into an empty net? You know the other team's not going to like that. And if you're Morgan Rielly, you know the referees know this, and you still go right up to him and cross-check him in the head, and now you're suspended for 5 games. I get it. It was a terrible thing to do. You probably shouldn't be shooting it as hard as you physically can into an empty net in an attempt to show up the other team. But at the same time, why are you cross-checking him in the head? I mean, it was unnecessary on both parts. The Hurricanes were not in action last night. Actually, they have a game coming up here tonight. They will be taking on the Dallas Stars, and this is their first road game quite a while. It's been since before the All-Star break since Carolina's been on the road. So actually, back in January was the last time. But tonight, starting at 8 o'clock, they will be taking on the Dallas Stars. And then a little bit later on in the week, they continue a little bit of a West Coast swing, playing Arizona and Vegas in back-to-back nights, Friday and Saturday. I don't know what the situation is that they have to only play 3 games out there, because usually with the NHL schedule, if you're an East Coast team going out to the West Coast, you're playing everybody out there. I mean, you're going to play 4 or 5 games. You're going to play Vegas. You're going to play LA, Anaheim, Seattle now, Vancouver, San Jose. Usually these games are grouped together and you play a bunch of them at once. Even Edmonton and Calgary are thrown into that. But for Carolina, only 2 games out in the West Coast. I think they're going to have to go out there one more time. I haven't taken a look at the entire season schedule yet to see what late March is for them, but hopefully this is the last time that we're going to see them on the West Coast, because that just takes a lot out of your team traveling that far. Now, I do like what the NHL does in having them play multiple games on the West Coast, because think about this, man. If you went out to Vancouver and played 1 game and then you had a game the next day at home, you're probably going to lose no matter what, because you're going from the East Coast to the West Coast, back to the East Coast. You're going to be tired. But the NHL eliminates that, and they do a good job of it. They schedule multiple games in a week out on the West Coast. For the West Coast, on the East Coast, same thing. Although it's a little bit harder considering most of the teams are closer to the East Coast in the NHL. Anyway, just kind of babbling at this point. Let's get back on track here. So Carolina tonight against Dallas. That is who they take on. And Dallas has had an interesting year themselves, currently on top of the Central Division with 70 points, 2 points ahead of the Colorado Avalanche. Comparing that to the Hurricanes, the Stars have 5 more points. So the records shake down like this. In 52 games played, the Stars are 32-14-6, whereas the Hurricanes have 1 less game played, and they're 30-16-5 in those games. Slight advantage to Dallas, and a little bit more in the betting game considering they're at home. But we'll see what Carolina can do coming off of a very big win last weekend. 1-0 shutout win by Peter Kochetkov against the New Jersey Devils. Not much NBA news for you right now. We have the All-Star game coming up. Do people care about the NBA anymore? I mean, I try to get into it and I try to talk about it, but it just seems that nobody's really interested in it. But we do have the All-Star games that are coming up February 16th through the 18th. We're going to have the dunk contest, which somehow, some way has gotten stale. The three-point contest, same thing. I think they should let street ballers compete in the skills competitions. Not NBA players. Get some guys that are legendary street ballers and let them come in and compete in the dunk contest against some of the pros. Let them compete in the three-point contest with the pros. Why not? I mean, you got to do something at this point because nobody's going to watch this. The ratings for the NBA All-Star Game might be pretty identical to the ratings for the NHL All-Star Game. And that would be saying a lot because historically the NBA has vastly outgrown the NHL, especially when you look at numbers, people watching, contracts even. I mean, whew. So we have that coming up in the NBA. I don't really have anything to say about the Hornets. Somehow they are on a 2-game winning streak. Okay. They're up to 12 wins on the year. Congratulations. Actually, a little bit of an update from the Hornets as I kind of forgot about this. The Hornets GM, Mike Kupchak, had announced that he stepped down. So a little bit of a change there in the front office. I don't know why he's stepping down. He might have been forced out at this point. There's not a lot of news about this. It's just that Hornets GM Mike Kupchak is stepping down. And he is moving to become an organizational advisor. Where are these hires coming from? Did he do a good job as the GM? I mean, the team stinks. I don't know. I really have no idea what the Hornets are doing. The rebuild is going to be insane. I mean, this guy, the GM, he just traded for picks in 2027 and then said, peace. See ya. We'll see. It's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long few years for this area, especially if you're not a hockey fan, because the Panthers, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a positive outlook. The Hornets, same thing. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's going to get better soon. It's going to get better soon because I don't see it. Charlotte FC, I mean, we'll see. They made the playoffs for the first time. It's only their 3rd season as a team. An improvement would be winning a playoff game this year. Although now Karol Swiderski's out on loan, so who knows? It's going to be a wild time. I can't wait for March Madness because then we can talk about that. Anyway, kind of talking about everything going on in the world of sports right at the end there, huh? Join me tomorrow, same time, same place here on the Scoreboard. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.